Welcome to Mac Geek Gab episode 929 for Monday, May 23rd, 2022. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where we answer your questions. We share your tips. We share your cool stuff found because you send them in to us at feedback@macgeekgab.com so that we can answer them throughout the week and once a week here on the show. Because the goal is that we each learn at least 5 new things every single time we get together. So that's a good way to do it. Answering questions is a good way to learn stuff. Sponsors for this episode include Coda.io/MGG, where you can create just one doc to rule them all. Very cool service. Kolide at KOLIDE.com/MGG, where you can manage your users' device security and notify them about all kinds, educate them via Slack. It's a cool integration. And then LinkedIn.com/MGG, where you can go and post your first job for free. We'll talk more in depth about each of those a little bit later. For now, back here, I feel like it's been a while that I've done this here in Durham, New Hampshire. I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is John F. Braun.
And here in Lee, New Hampshire, Pilot Pete. Nice to be back with you, gents. Dave, it has been a while. You traveled, but you didn't do a remote show.
I didn't, because we recorded 2 before I left. Right. We recorded the Synology episode.
Out of order, by the way.
Out of order, correct. Yeah, that was interesting. I'm not sure if we've done that before. I feel like there might have been a time when we did for some reason. But yeah, we recorded whatever it was, 9:28, then 9:27, and then I took off to Portland to pick up my son. And yeah, it was good. I used that ASUS ZenScreen for that trip. Because while I didn't do any remote podcast recording, it was a remote working trip for sure. You know, I had stuff that I needed to stay up with. And that 15-inch screen to travel with, to connect to my laptop, makes all the difference in the world for me.
That's cool.
In terms of just being able to like immerse myself for a few hours in the morning, be totally productive, and then, was able to go and we were moving our son out of college. So it was, there was stuff to do for sure. And we did have some sort of leisure time there as well, but to carve out those moments to get some what I'll call focused work done, that extra screen for me makes a difference. I think it's because I use multiple monitors at my workspaces, and so
let me jump in on that. You asked me, and I don't remember if it was on a show or a post show or at some point about did my workflow involve extra screens and that sort of thing, and no, it doesn't, but it hasn't needed to yet. So I started playing around with it. And this week, especially, I've gone through several tutorials with the video up on my television screen and me working on my laptop screen, following along. Oh, okay. That's how it goes. Do that.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty slick. What I was not able to do, and I think it's an account thing, was to use my iPad, because I have a separate Apple ID on my iPad so that I don't mix and match personal and business, because it's not my iPad.
It's
a
right.
Company-issued iPad.
It's a company issued. That makes sense. Yeah, there are ways especially with Apple's new device management.
There's a beta thing I saw.
That's happening, right? That, and the company would need to adopt it. But because we interviewed somebody from Apple on this show actually a few months ago. I'll put a link in the show notes about that whole system, and it allows you to have the work Apple ID manage, the iPad that's owned by work, but also add your personal Apple ID, and that data is actually kept private and sandboxed and all of those things.
Oh, nice.
So,
okay.
For people that didn't catch it, what Pete's talking about is sidecar mode, where you're using your iPad as a extra screen for your Mac, only works for devices that are all signed into the same Apple ID. And so, that's interesting. I wonder if there is a workaround
again.
Yeah, well, someday, yeah. I wonder if there's a workaround for that, though. because it feels
I
like
didn't find it. If there is, I'm sure there is, but I didn't find it.
I feel like there's like, because your situation is far from unique. Right. And so, like, I wonder if there's a way to log your Mac into your company account in a way that would enable that kind of connection without adding all the other stuff. Like, I don't know the answer to this, but I'm just, like,
because you can be logged into multiple Apple IDs on a laptop.
Yeah, but one of them is very much the primary, right? And then the other is just there for syncing in general. But I don't know. Maybe behind the scenes, it's like, syncing and, sidecar, sure. And as Brian Monroe in our chat at macgeekup.com/Discord points out, that universal control also needs to be logged in to the same Apple ID for that to work.
That's the one. Universal control is in the beta now, right? Is that what I read?
Yeah. Universal control is in beta. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess it's there. I had an interesting issue with universal control this week that I was going to share in the quick tip segment. So, let it be a PSA and let us enter the quick tip segment of the show. But I had been doing some stuff up here in the studio, and then I went downstairs to the office and started working on the Mac Mini down there. I suddenly lost the ability to control my computer with keyboard and mouse. Like, neither one, nothing. And it was like, okay, so at first
that's kind of important.
At first I thought the trackpad had, the battery had died in it, so I plugged it in, and I saw like connecting this way, and okay, it sees it. Move the trackpad around, nothing. Keyboard, nothing. So I finally log in remotely from my phone and reboot the Mac, my office. I'm like, okay. And as it comes back up, I start messing around. It's like, okay, great. Keyboard and mouse work great. As soon as it gets to a point where it's like, start it up, keyboard and mouse go away again. Like, okay, what is going on? And I realized it was universal control. I had pushed past the edge of my screen, and I was controlling this computer up here unintentionally, and also with no indication on the screen of the device that I came from that I had left. Now, Apple doesn't know that these two computers are in separate rooms. But again, I don't think my situation is unique. I know, which is why I shared on the show, that other people out there are going to run into this. So I figured
not necessarily a bug, but a feature request maybe. That, hey, by the way, just a quick, you're on the other computer now.
Yeah, you've moved. Because I know these features are there, and it took me, I burned 20 minutes trying to figure this out.
Elvis has left the room.
Right. Yeah. So it was interesting. And what I'm surprised about is that this has not happened before. But the only difference is I turned off sleep on this iMac up here because of the Thunderbolt bug, where Thunderbolt devices fall off the chain in macOS 12.2 and later, including 12.4, I have proven. So they fall off the chain after the computer goes to sleep, after it's been rebooted. So I don't want to have to deal with that. So I just turned off sleep for now. Well, Apple hopefully fixes it. So, yeah, interesting. So, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Let's see.
You got any quick tips today?
We got more quick tips. We have quick tips from you folks. And listener Paul brings us to the first one, and I will find it. It's one of my favorite quick tips. I had no idea that this existed. If you go into the Finder and go to the View menu, Show Preview, or if you've got it up already, then you know that you can do this. Hide Preview. Paul was actually having a problem with previews sticking, and I had no idea. Maybe we've talked about it on the show before, but it's not part of my cognitive lexicon to know that there are previews available in Finder, and it's actually a pretty cool little thing if you know what it is. But yeah,
I've had it enabled for years. It never occurred to me that it that you could do it any other way.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's so nice. Oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So
Yeah. It's faster. Yeah, you get a really sort of contextualized get info window right there. Yeah, it's great.
If, though, it tells you the size of the file. Oh, it does, down at the bottom. Like, for instance, in a photo, it gives you the resolution. That's one of the really nice things. Hey, which one am I looking at? Is that the small version or the large version of that?
Yeah, like I have an audio file here, and it shows me the duration and sample rate, in addition to sort of the the created, modified, last opened.
All the metadata.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. So thank you for unintentionally contributing that quick tip, Paul, and hopefully the issue that came up with.
Well, he was trying to hide it, right?
He was trying to hide it. Yeah. But he was like, I have no idea how I turn this on. How do I turn it off? It's like, yeah, here you go. In the fantastic news department shared with us by, I think Mark was the first one. Matt was on board. Tony was there too. There were many, 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 many of you who shared with us this fantastic news that Google has backpedaled on their Google Workspace GSuite mandatory migration thing. If you are willing to testify with them that you will use your legacy free GSuite account for personal use only, then they will give you the legacy GSuite account for free forever, or at least for free again. We can't say forever because we thought
I'm doing here on the video. What a fish shake
for everyone that is not watching. For the majority of the audience. Pilot Pete, do you have a fish shake to share?
Oh boy, do I ever! Because I got it. Maybe I should have been more impatient. Patience grasshopper, right? But the fact remains that I saw it coming. I went ahead and put my billing data in there, so the legacy would continue on as it went from there.
Sure.
But it turns out I already do have my own server that I lease for my personal website and that sort of thing. So I'm kind of already paying for email. Anyway in there. So I migrated out of the Google Workspace G Suite, whatever other name they've given it over the years, and migrated all of that back over to my server. So it's now managing my email. If anybody knows a good divorce attorney I can put on retainer, please let me know, because that sale may be coming. No, Mama was not real happy with the hiccups that go along with transferring mail servers. No matter what you do or how you do it, the fact is, that as you pointed out at one point, Dave, 3-4 days later, there's still an occasional email hitting the old Google IMAP server. Well, and we presume that it was probably just a cached DNS. That was pointed in that direction, but that was painful. I have swapped it over, and I'm going to remain. Now that I can go back for free, I think I'm just going to leave it.
You're not going to do it. Yeah. Well, what I would recommend is that you go in and do the jump back to free, which you can do. If you haven't, so to catch everybody up,
I want it free. Okay.
Right. Yeah. You can now go into your Google, either your G Suite account that you haven't migrated, which you need to do something about before the end of this month. So you've got about a week. But by June 1st, they will auto migrate you over unless you go in and do this attestation that you want to keep the free account and that you're using it for personal. And then it will just put you on that. But even if you had already migrated to the will be paid in the future account, because they give everybody 4 months free from when you migrate anyway, just because they wanted to hedge their bets, I think, and try to figure this out. But once if you've done that, you can undo it. You can go in and change back to that. We'll put a link in the show notes that sort of walks through a few of these things. But yeah, it's back to free. And I do understand your pain, Pete, migrating my family away from the macobserver.com email addresses that they had used for, my children their entire lives. Yeah. And my wife for, the last 20 plus years of hers. I understand the the need to perhaps put a divorce attorney on speed dial, because that was not a pleasant thing.
No.
No.
I just want to do this.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, what we wound up doing again, I created an IMAP server, and then Mama already had her own free Google Gmail account.
Sure.
And so she uses that as her main aggregator now, and goes in and sucks all the mail in from the Harman one. And she has a work email address too, pulls it all into there. And then she has the Gmail app on iOS to consolidate it there as well, which she has actually really fallen in love with. So that's the good thing that's come out of it. The Gmail app on iOS is pretty powerful.
It is. Yeah. If you don't want to stay tied into using mail, Apple's mail, then I agree. Yeah. So, yeah, I was happy about this for obvious reasons. I have, the family domain there and several others. So it was nice.
Well, I'll definitely need that link to go back in and do that attestation.
Yeah, just so you preserve it, because if you want to move to it in 2 years, having that account, it's there. Yeah. And I have one of mine that I moved away from Google years ago when I moved to Fastmail. I like you were saying, your wife did. I have all of my email from everywhere sort of funnel into one box. Yeah. And that's the box that I've had on Fastmail now for years. But it used to be that domain, and it's a personal domain of mine. But that domain used to be on GSuite before I moved it to Fastmail. And so I went into that one too and did the attestation so that I preserved the free account. If I ever need to move back to it, well, then I can do that. So
I would just love to be a fly on the wall though, and know what kind of blowback Google got for trying to start charging money for something they've had free for years.
I don't think you need to be a fly on the wall. I mean, you could listen to this show. You could read you could read like every tech blog out there, which just, it was a stupid thing. I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but it came through in the most
ham-fisted.
Ham-fisted is a kind term. Yeah. Like this was like shoot first and then decide whether or not you want to ask questions at a later date. It doesn't make sense to me. You're
ready, fire, aim.
Yeah, ready. Yeah, not even. It was like fire, aim. What happened? Maybe we should get ready now.
Who pulled the trigger?
Right. Yeah. I didn't even know there was a trigger. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Moving on.
Shaking is done. Thanks.
Yeah. You want to take us to Russell, John?
Yes. So Russell says, just threw a quick tip about charging iPhones on my Geek Gab 927. Thank you. Here's another quick tip for when you find your phone hasn't charged for some reason and you need to get it charged as quickly as possible. Since the iPhone 6 Plus, there's been a fast charging mode. Connect a high-powered USB charger using a USB-C to phone. I think he means Lightning cable. Maybe it only works with Apple brand chargers, maybe any brand. I don't know. Excuse me, as I have only an Apple USB-C 29-watt charger. If the phone is really empty, then it starts slow to protect the battery, but at some point it takes off. Similarly, once it gets to mostly full, maybe 70% or so, it slows down again. If you want to do this, then be aware that heat is produced while charging, and you may need to take your phone out of the case that insulates it thermally, or the thermal protection will cut in and reduce the charge rate. Yeah, I've actually been getting a heat warning as of late. The sun's coming out now, so if I have it mounted in the car, which has a dark interior, at some point it'll say, I'm too hot. You see a little thermometer on the phone, and it's like, I'm not going to work until I cool off. And it's like, oh, okay.
So where are you? Is this while it's charging in the car, or just like if you lay it on
so I have
dash?
a Qi mount.
Okay. I wonder if a MagSafe mount would be less susceptible to this. I would guess it would.
It could be because maybe it manages the heat better than the regular charging mode.
Right. Well, I mean, my speculation is based on the fact that MagSafe lines up the Qi connector as best as possible, right? In the best scenario or best lineup as possible. So there's less charging power wasted to heat in the. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Well, it's the vent. Most of those Qi chargers in the car are mounted on the vent.
Right.
So they're going to get some cooling air there, one would hope.
Right.
Yeah, I
Is
thought
yours
I had
vent mount, John,
there.
or no?
It's a window.
It's a suction mount. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll have to look through my bag of goodies. I think I must have one
A MagSafe one.
buried somewhere. Yeah.
If you don't, I highly recommend the one that we talked about a few weeks ago in the car, the Skoshi. Sorry, I don't know why I started saying Skoshi. For years I've said Skosh, and that's the way it's pronounced. The Skosh MagSafe mounts for the car are absolutely fantastic. They really, and we have not yet seen a heat issue with it, but we were traveling last weekend when we had that heat wave here in New England. So I have not seen 90-degree weather yet this
Stand
year.
by for Sunday.
I'm aware. Yeah.
Oh, it's coming.
Yes. Yeah. It will happen. I think tomorrow, actually, or Saturday. Yeah.
Right.
Based on when we're recording this.
Oh, yeah.
But,
So to continue, so he says, I just timed my old iPhone XS Max, large phone with big battery, from 20% full in a thin plastic case. The battery is at 83% of original capacity after well over 3 years, so I support Dave's view that fast charging using a properly designed charging system is not an issue for batteries. I would tend to agree. I actually looked at my phone and I'm at, I think, 84% after a couple of years. So, all right. And then he did a test. At the start of the test, 20% full battery. After 5 minutes, it was 28%, 10 minutes, 37%, 15 minutes, 45%, and so on. So about 8 to 9% every 5 minutes. All right, so I guess the other thing you want to look for is make sure that the cable that you get is a good cable, because you could run into charging efficiency issues unless you get the right cable.
So how would you advise someone to go and, like, what would qualify a cable as quote unquote good?
Well, that's more for USB-C to USB-C charging.
Okay.
This is USB-C to Lightning, so I mean, you get the Apple cable, but with USB-C,
but not just the Apple cable. Like, would you not recommend the Anchor cable? Because I use tons of those.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
What I'm saying is, some cables will restrict the charging level.
Yeah, especially those USB-C. Some USB-C cables will not do like full 100-watt or more power delivery.
Right.
That's fair. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So just make sure you're buying one that does what you think. Yeah.
Now the other thing I wanted to mention, and where is it? Now there's also iOS. The battery settings. Go to settings, battery. And you're going to see a couple of things here which may impact your charging speeds. So one, they have low power mode, which I have off. Maybe I shouldn't. And then if you click on battery health, so it'll show the maximum capacity. It'll say whether it's at peak performance, which mine is. And then they have this optimized battery charging mode. You may want to look at that as well.
Well, let's talk about what that is. Do you want to tell them? You want me to take it?
Well, it's right on the screen. To reduce battery aging, iPhone learns from your daily charging routine, so it can wait to finish charging past 80% until you need to use it.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I've noticed lately several times, I'll plug my phone in on the nightstand at night, and I'll go, I'm going to wait till about 4 a.m. to charge you up completely. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's nice that it's warning you if that's what's going on, so that you don't wake up at 3 and go, why isn't my phone charging?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I wonder if is there a way to override that, though? Let's say I've got an early go and I need my phone charged when I get up at 3:30. I wonder if you could override that.
You can turn that setting off. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that's under battery and settings, you think?
Mm-hmm.
It is. Yeah. It's battery settings, and then in the battery health section is the optimized battery charging.
There you go. That's right.
Yep.
I remember now. Okay.
Yeah. So
dumb questions.
Not a dumb question. It's a great question. Yeah. Hey, you found a quick tip this morning, Pete, and I realize our fast charging was more of a conversation than a quick tip. So, but that's fine. That's how the show works. It's all good.
I did. I stumbled onto one and realized that I hadn't used it in a long time. Who out there has gone, oh, I had that conversation with Dave last week, and I needed the link that he gave me, and you wind up you're scrolling, and you can't find it.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? In iOS, if you just go to messages and have all the contacts in there, and you go to the middle of the screen and you pull down, you get a little search window at the top. And in this particular case, I was looking for a StreamYard link that you had sent me. So I pulled down, went to that search window and typed in StreamYard, and it gave me all the links to StreamYard and all the mentions of StreamYard in our conversations. And it lists them even by date. Here is the date. It was May 6th that you sent me that link. And
really?
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that was cool. So I thought I'd share that with everybody. And it's available also in the Messages app on Mac OS.
Okay.
So next time you find yourself going, and I know I had somewhere in that text exchange with Joe.
Yeah, right.
That's how you find it more quickly. So,
I'm not sure I knew that. That's a great quick tip. Let me just say it that way. Yes. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Give it a blind squirrel.
Yeah. No, it's great. Yeah. It's a good reminder that, these features that they add, makes a difference.
Because I used to just scroll, and then you get 4 days back and you have to wait for it to load more.
Right.
And then it loads some more and you get some more days.
Well, so here's the thing that I do now that the search feature is there, I think I'll use it more. But what I'll do sometimes is if somebody messages me and it's something that I know is important and I don't want to search for it, create a new note and put it in there. So note is like my staging area for stuff that I should probably do someday.
That's good. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Good stuff. Cool. All right. Let's see. Listener Bob has a quick tip for us, getting back into that realm. He says, if you want to print out a keynote or PowerPoint presentation, often you can tell the print dialog to put 4 slides on a page instead of 1. And it is still very readable, or at least it should be if your slides were going to be presented in a big room from far away. 4 up on a page should still be quite readable. And it's 1 slide, and it takes a lot less paper than 1 slide per page. So, yeah, it's a good reminder that feature is there. And I don't know that I ever would have thought to use it that way. So thank you for that, Listener Bob. Good stuff.
Now it's funny though, because not all programs will let you do this. So I was like, oh, that's a neat tip. Let me go in Safari and print. And it's like, nope.
Really? Safari? Huh.
I couldn't find an option to change, to do like a 4 up or something like that. But then I opened Photos, and Photos, of course, has it.
Safari has it. If you go to the print dialog in Safari,
right,
and turn on Show Details so you can see all the settings, you will see a menu that if by default will start with the name Safari, which gives you the options, the Safari specific options for print backgrounds or print headers and footers. But then you can go down that menu to Layout.
There it is.
And you change to pages per sheet, and you can say 4, and you can kind of decide, what call. Order. Yeah. Yeah. So it's there for most things. Well, for anything that's using the Apple print dialog, it's there. Some apps have, kind of inserted their own redirect in there, and that might. Yeah.
I think this used to be in page setup. Remember that?
But yes.
I see what they did. They folded it into the
That's right.
dialog.
Yeah.
It's just
I wonder if you can print to PDF that way. I bet you can.
Oh, you know what? I'm willing to try this while we do the show. That's a great idea, Pete. So what happens if I say paper handling? Layout. I just told everybody how to do this. So I say 4, and then I say, I'll just say open in preview. and I get a PDF in preview behind me that, sure enough, has things laid out for up. So, yeah.
So you could send a PDF that way to somebody so they don't have to figure out how to.
Correct. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I love that. Wow. All right.
Speaking of blind squirrels,
that's the quick tip
today,
for
man.
today.
I'm up there.
That's a great one. Yeah. All right.
Hey, I'm feeling lucky today, man.
Now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, keep swinging for the fences, man. You're doing good. Kiwi Graham sent in a quick tip. He says, it seems I just missed the memo about how much easier it is now to use split screen on the iPad. And so I'm going to read his note here because for me, processing it this way was truly the best reminder that this feature, split screen mode on the iPad, is now so much more intuitive, even though perhaps intuitive isn't the right word. It's easy to do once you know how to do it. He said the first tip that I'll share is simply tap on the 3 dots at the center of any window. That will present you, they show up just at the top of the screen. And that's where you start this whole process. He said the second tip for apps that allow it is that same tap on the 3 dots gives the ability to create or select multiple windows for the same app. Think of it like Mac OS browsers where you use Command N for a new window rather than Command T for a new tab. Okay, I like this. The third tip, and for me, he says the most useful, is that Apple Mail and the Spark Mail app utilize split screen in slightly different ways to allow you to be drafting an email on one side while browsing through other emails on the other side. This is huge. Yeah, he says for Apple Mail, once you're in the Compose pop-up window, you can tap on those 3 dots at the top of the screen to choose to have it in split mode rather than in pop-up mode. And then you get access to all your messages behind things. And he says for Spark, which is his preferred iOS mail client or iPad OS mail client, he says you use those 3 dots to choose split screen mode and then choose Spark as the second app as well and draft your email in another window. So you're just reinstantiating the app effectively and creating a new message in one of them, which is similar to what you do in Safari, because you can have Safari up multiple times, and that works very well. So thank you for this, Kiwi Graham. A reminder that yeah, there's good stuff to be done with split screen mode. I like it. It's good.
Yeah. And then second one of the day, another fish shake, because there are times on that iPad when I need to get to the top, near the top center of that screen in one of the apps I use for work, and it wants to give me all the split screen options. And then what I haven't tried is to see if you could swipe that little menu up out of the way. I need to go back and look at that. But boy, is that frustrating. There's time. I just need to get to that little center area up there behind those 3 dots, and it keeps pulling down those options that I want nothing to do with at the time. So
there you go.
Now, you had some tangent on that in the pre-show we were going to talk about, but do you remember what it was?
I
was talking about the split screen and the menu not wanting it there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thought I had when you shared it in pre-show was just that, like, apps are written for the device of today, and then when you get that app running on the device of tomorrow, the developer needs to go back, and those kinds of changes are not as easy to adapt for. Once you've got the way an app works and all the paradigms are doing the things that they're doing, and you've got this flow, now it's like, oh, we've got to change the flow. It's like the notch, right? On the M1 MacBook Pros. It's like, okay, well, now, like, if it's a thing that has a lot of menu items, you've got to account for this. And so, yeah, it's just they aren't the easiest things to account for, but it's fine.
The things that drive developers nuts.
The things that drive developers nuts. Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, this is great. I'm glad you have this amazing thing for split screen mode, but it's where you used to let us do things, and that's the issue, right?
So if it isn't there, I guess my feature request is the ability to swipe that up and out of the way.
Right. Oh, have you tried simply swiping?
I haven't yet. I need to go do that, but I didn't want to knock the microphone over and.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good.
All that in the middle of the show.
I think you almost knocked the microphone over while the theme music was playing in the beginning of the show. I heard something there.
Saw me. You can't prove a thing.
Well, I heard it, so I figured. There's that old rule in theater, where they say if you drop something on the floor in the middle of a scene, pick it up. Yeah, because
or pretend you were supposed to.
Right. Well, either one, but don't pretend that this thing you dropped on the floor is not on the floor, because every single human in the room knows it's on the floor.
They're looking right at it.
They're looking right. They've stopped looking at you, and they're looking at the stupid thing that got knocked on the floor. So if you make it part of the scene, for one show only, that's the way to do it. So I always try to acknowledge those things that are there. Speaking of mail, John, we had a quick tip from listener Ed, yeah? I think. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hold on. There he is. I like this one. Quick
Same.
And easy. Here's a quick tip I stumbled upon. I was going to compose an email on my phone, and as I thought about who I needed to include in the mail, I discovered a screen I'd never seen before. If you long press on the compose icon, the square with the diagonal line in the bottom right-hand corner, it will open up your saved drafts, so you can quickly hop back into a partially completed email. I usually write my drafts in Notes or the iOS app Drafts. This quick access is enough for me to rethink my workflow. And yeah, sure enough, for those that are wondering, how do you get a draft? If you start composing an email and you abandon it, you'll, I think on pretty much any platform, you'll get a dialogue saying, hey, you want to save this draft? And if you say yes, it puts it in your drafts folder, which you may also notice if you look in your mail client. So that's neat. And actually, I did this, and I had a draft that was probably like 5 years old that I had totally forgot about. So
I'm thinking I shouldn't go look, because it'll be like, wait, that whole thing about that deal.
I sent that. No wonder I never got that response.
I have probably 100 drafts out here. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at those this weekend. And I might or might not choose to do it with a cocktail on the other hand, because I'm sure there's going to be a few in there where it's like, oh, this is going to hurt.
I could be mistaken, but I think if you abandon an email on iOS, you don't even get that dialogue, but it automatically saves every so often into drafts.
Oh. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my guess is that most, and my hope is that all of these emails that I find in there are going to be like those things where it's like it started, it got put in drafts, and then another version of it got sent out. So that's fingers are crossed. Great. Yeah. I mean, it's whatever. Like, I suppose there's a funny story to tell. I always, whenever there's an issue or something, I just like, it's like the theater thing. I just try to acknowledge it. And like, sometimes it leads to a more, a better foundation of trust in the relationship when you show up and you're like, hey, remember that thing I replied to you about 2 months ago? No, because I never sent the reply. I screwed up. Yeah, that's fine. Hey, one thing that I don't think I screwed up this week, though, is a while back, we grabbed the domain mgg.fm, and I had this idea this week. I was like, okay, I wonder if I could do something interesting with it. And I did. So if you just go to mgg.fm, it'll redirect you to macgeekgab.com and all of that. And yes, emails to feedback@macgeekgab.com or work. That's the preferred way to email us. But if you really want to save your digital footprint and type less characters, feedback@mgg.fm will also go to us. It'll mean that John and Pete will have to set up additional filters on their email like I have now. But you're welcome, guys. However, the really cool thing that I did is that I wired it up so that if you type in mgg.fm/episode number, it will bring you to that episode's page. So you don't need to think about any other URL structure. If you want to go to Mac Geek Gab, if you want to go to Mac Geek Gab number 1, that's your choice. It's not a recommendation. Don't do it. But it's there, mgg.fm/1. But like episode 100 is all right there. Like, or, you know, if you want to go to last week's episode, the Synology one, it's mgg.fm/928. And it just
I think I was there for show 100. Wasn't
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I can click on a link in the show notes at macgeekgab.com and see it. I'm trying to think. Do we say? I don't know. Not
that important.
Yeah.
I just seem to recall it. I might have been there for 100 because it was kind of a milestone.
It was, yeah. I just don't know that we knew each other.
Was it a retrospective or
then it was a retrospective about the computers that we had used. Yeah. But that's back when we were playing nation states. We had that whole online game thing, nation states, that we were all playing in the Geeks Unite region. So I forgot about that. Anyway, so if you want to trip down memory lane, or if you just want to find an old episode, because we said, in episode 926, we talked about this thing, mgg.fm/926, get you right there. If you have any other ideas about things that we could or should or might do with that, let us know. Feedback at mgg.fm or, macgeekgab.com.
Feedback at macgeekgab.com.
Wait, feedback at macgeekgab.com?
Yeah, and if macgeekgab.com is too hard to say, mgg.fm does work. So,
you do feedback at mgg.fm?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And on iOS, if you cancel out, it does indeed say delete draft or save draft.
Oh, it does.
Okay. Or maybe there's a setting for that, because I've seen it happen automatically, like where I haven't chosen to do it, but who knows?
There's a lot of save setting.
Yeah. Cool.
That's my recollection.
All right. Well, quick tips took 41 minutes, and now we have a bunch of your questions to get to. So we have actually some great stuff to do. And the next great thing to do, if it works for you, Mr. Braun, is I would love to tell everybody about our 3 sponsors for this episode.
Sounds good.
All right. Spending our work days jumping from one platform to another for every single task is productivity poison. So if you haven't switched to our sponsor, Coda, yet, you got to check this out. Coda is the single document that brings it all together. Your valuable data, your plans, your objectives, your strategies, all in the same place on the same page. It's all at coda.io/MGG. So if your best work is spread out across different documents and spreadsheets and a stack of workflow tools that you have to jump in and out of all day, you can bring it all together in a single Coda doc. You can integrate with the tools that you use every day and easily import from other platforms, so your Coda doc can be your single source of truth. We always talk about here, if you've got your data in multiple places, you never know which is the up-to-date version. Coda solves that because everything's connected in Coda. Buttons can take action. Your tables can talk to each other. So an update in one place updates everywhere. And they've got templates for anything and everything. We've been working with one of them for a Q&A template. Yeah, for the show here, right? So that everybody can see the questions everybody else asks and you're able to vote on them. This thing's going to be awesome. With Coda, your team can operate on the same information quickly and efficiently. And right now, you can get started having your team all working together on the same page for free. Yup. Head over to coda.io/MGG. That's coda.io/MGG to get started for free. Coda.io/MGG. And our thanks to Coda for sponsoring this episode. With spring in the air, it's a time of renewal and growth personally and professionally. As your small business grows, LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk with faster and for free. This is how we found Sadie, and look at what she's done with us over the last year plus that she's been here. It's friggin' amazing. You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond, because LinkedIn's got the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Once you add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring, then your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so that you can prioritize and make sure that you're interviewing the people that you want to interview and not wasting anyone's time. This is why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs can help you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. And did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/MGG. That's linkedin.com/MGG to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Our thanks to LinkedIn Jobs for sponsoring this episode. Next up is Kolide at KOLIDE.com/MGG. Kolide sends your employees important, timely, and relevant security recommendations for their Mac, their Windows, and Linux devices, and it all happens where they already are, right inside Slack. Kolide is perfect for organizations which care deeply about compliance and security, but don't want to get there by locking down devices to the point where they become unusable by your team, right? So instead of frustrating your employees, Kolide educates them about security and device management while directing them to fix important problems. At Kolide, they know end users are IT admins' most significant untapped resources and are the key to solving the most challenging to fix security issues, including things like instructing developers to set passphrases on their SSH keys, right? Finding plain text two-factor backup codes and teaching end users how to store them securely, and then convincing your employees to uninstall those evil browser extensions that might sell their browser history. Those are just some of the many use cases not solved when you lock down devices. And you can try Kolide with all its features on an unlimited number of devices for 14 days, no credit card required. Visit kolide.com/MGG to sign up today. That's KOLIDE.com/MGG. Enter your email when prompted to receive your free Kolide gift bundle after trial activation. And our thanks to Kolide for sponsoring this episode. All right, John, you're on a roll with some of this charging and heat and all that stuff. So let's follow that up. Steve had a question, kind of. It's almost like a real-time follow-up question to the quick tip that you mentioned earlier. Yeah.
So Steve says, my fellow geeks, other than the advantage of alignment, do you have an opinion of the benefits of MagSafe versus Qi charging? I have heard mentioned before that heat can be the enemy of battery life. Do you know if the higher power of a MagSafe charger with better alignment would be better than a low-power Qi charger when it comes to heat or charging efficiency? I have the old Belkin 3-in-1 charger shown here, and it's a flat surface. I was considering this new 3-in-1 MagSafe charger as a replacement, and it looks like it spaces things out a little nicer. Am I overthinking this, as I usually do? No, I don't think so. From what I could tell, MagSafe certified charger can get up to 15 watts. Like Apple's advertises, it can go up to that. Versus Qi, which I recall correctly, or at least the early ones that I have, do about 7 watts. So, now speaking of heat, though, this is neat. I sent a link to this here. Samsung Qi certified fast charge wireless charger pad with cooling fan. So apparently the smart people over at Samsung realized that heat kills. So you're right about that. But really, you got to check the specs. There's no guarantee that you're going to get 15 watts or up to 15 watts. If you want to know how much power is being consumed, you could get one of those nifty little USB-A or USB-C power meters, and it'll tell you some things, typically the voltage and the current, and if you multiply those, you get watts. So
interesting stuff, man. So
yeah, now there's also so let me link, unless you already did.
No, I'll take care of the links. We put.
They have an article also that goes into a little more detail, so I'll paste that in. But it's how to use your MagSafe charger with an iPhone 13 model or iPhone 12 model. So they touch on some of the things in there, but go ahead.
Well, my question is, do we know how much power Qi can draw at a maximum, and we know how much power MagSafe can draw at a maximum. We've got 7.5. I think some Qi chargers will go up to 10 watts. But I don't know if Apple's devices do that yet. But anyway, you've got the draw of 7.5 or 10 watts on Qi, and then you've got the draw of whatchamacallit, the 15 watts on MagSafe. But what's the output to the device, right? Because that's the part that matters. Like the delta between 15 watts and whatever your device gets via MagSafe, well, the rest is heat, right? So that would be the real question is, do we have the ability to know how much of that power is actually getting to the device versus being lost in heat in the transfer? And my understanding with Qi initially was that it was very unscientifically about half. So the question is, does MagSafe, because of all the things we talked about earlier, does that make it more efficient? And therefore, by nature of efficiency, there's less lost in heat in the transfer. And I think it does, but I can't find anything that supports that. So I could just be making it up.
Yeah. Well, if you got a circuit diagram, you could kind of compute it. My EE days are long behind me, but
could you though? I mean, with I don't think the circuit would tell you. The iPhone would have to tell you, right? The recipient device would have to, because the Qi charger or the MagSafe charger doesn't. It only knows how much power it's sending out. It doesn't know how much power the device is receiving, right? So.
Someone needs to write an app for that.
It would, an app. Like, I wonder, does coconut battery show you if you're wired in? Well, but if you're wired in, you're charging over the cable, and all of this goes out the window. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the answer here, but I would like to.
But yeah, if you knew the value of the coils and you knew the right formula, you should be able to calculate the heat loss.
That's fair. Yes, that's fair. Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And the distance between them. So, whether you've got a case on your phone or not will absolutely make a difference here. We like our MagSafe cases, but they are also insulators at some level because that's how physics works, at least in our timeline here. So,
That's how physics works. In the category of cheap and worth it, when these 3-in-1 chargers first came out, I think I did some sort of Google search and bought one through one of the big box retailers, and it came directly from a slow boat from China. Literally.
Sure. Yep. And was this
biggest waste of $35 or $40? The one that's on the screen right now is a Belkin.
Yeah.
$150, $149.99. And Belkin makes good stuff.
They do.
Sure it works and all that, but don't go cheap on that. Yeah, you're going to just regret it. It lasted about 2 days.
Now, kind of related to the last question. I just lost it. It'll come back to me.
Okay.
Then I have a quick observation.
Yeah.
Anecdotal. I think the new Apple Watches, I went to an Apple Watch 7 about 3 or 4 months ago. I think the new chargers with that, for some reason, are faster.
Yes.
Than the old chargers. Okay.
Yes.
So it isn't just my crazy.
No,
my
it
old
charges faster.
Take longer. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah. I don't know if it's the charger or the watch itself is capable of being charged.
Well, it seems to me when I put it on the old charger, it charges, but not as fast as if I put it on one of the new chargers. That's Pete's purely observational. I haven't hit that stopwatch and seen where.
Yeah. Well, let us know, folks, if you have experienced that or if you know anything about it. Feedback at macgeekgab.com. We'll research it during the week too. But and you can also join our Discord channel at macgeekgab.com/Discord. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting stuff. Like I am still not using wireless charging next to my bed because it's I plug in. Well, it's just too. I haven't had
brush it
right
slightly off. We wake up with a dead phone.
With a dead phone.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, I haven't found the right form factor of a MagSafe beside the bed charger that is truly MagSafe. There are some Qi chargers that have magnets, and I realize that's also the description of MagSafe. However, there is a distinction there where MagSafe is lining it up in a very different way. And yeah, the ones that I've used, the Qi chargers with magnets for alignment that I've used have not yielded consistent results or reliable results yet.
You're never going to get that. A wired connection, whether it be networking or charging, is always going to be faster. And
well, it's not the speed.
That.
No, it's not the speed. It's not the efficiency, because I've got, I'm going to sleep for 5+ hours, right? Mm-hmm. It's that, like Pete said, if that phone gets knocked or nudged, it stops charging, and then you wake up with dead phone and sometimes like hot dead phone, because it's it's bad news. Yeah. So
that's why I think that 3-in-1 charger you had up on the screen earlier in the show was, there it is.
This is the Belkin one you mentioned, John, the 3-in-1 wireless charger with MagSafe. Yeah.
I think that's probably the best form factor there is if you insist on doing a MagSafe charge on your nightstand.
Yeah. No,
that's my personal opinion only. But
I agree. It looks to be it's just a small little disc, and there's obviously by the name 3-in-1, it's got MagSafe for your phone, a puck for your watch, and then a Qi pad that in their pictures they put AirPods on, but you could put anything Qi on there. So yeah, just don't be tempted to put your phone on that puck, or otherwise Yep. All right, where are we here?
Put your personal phone on the MagSafe one and your work phone on the puck, so you may not have to answer any calls tomorrow.
That's right. That's right. I am super proud. Remember, the listeners will remember, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks ago, mid-episode, my air purifier here in the studio decided it was time to overly clean the air, perhaps because Pete and I were both in here together. So now I have my podcasting focus mode, which keeps really all it does is it stops all notifications except notifications from you guys and my other 2 podcast hosts. And it's great. Like, it works really well. Well, I created an automation on my phone that runs without interruption. It doesn't have to prompt me. I told it not to prompt me. In the Shortcuts app, I created an automation that when podcasting focus mode gets turned on, it turns off my HomeKit compliant air purifier. And when podcasting focus mode is turned off, it turns on my HomeKit air purifier. And it's the Sensible air purifier. But that now it's great. So I don't have to worry about that thing.
Automation.
I love it, man. Yeah, it's great. All right, John, you want to take us, your dealer's choice. You want to take us to Craig or to Bob?
I like Craig.
All right, Craig it is. Let's do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so Craig says, in order to connect a RAID drive to my 2015 iMac running 12.3.1, I had to install SoftRAID. The program has several times presented the error in the screenshot below. The error is not from the RAID drive I just installed. It is from an SSD that I have been using for some time now. I ran this utility first aid and it detected no errors. Yeah, no shock there. I know you guys haven't much faith in the smart status, but I was wondering if this is something I should be worried about. The drive has seemed to work fine for several months. Also, as SoftRAID found this smart error, why hasn't my system picked this up before?
Sure.
And the error is as follows. Disk predicted to fail based on smart data. The SoftRAID monitor has detected a disk which is 20 to 60 times more likely to fail over the next 2 to 6 months than a normal disk. The prediction is based on the smart data retrieved from the disk. Please launch the SoftRAID application to determine which disk is predicted to fail, which I assume he did.
Sure.
Now, what it sounds like it doesn't do, which is annoying, is tell you which smart parameter. Some utilities will let you read the raw data. For example, the one that I like is called Smart Reporter. And embedded within it is something called SmartMon Tools. Or you can compile that separately on the command line, and that will show you all of the smart values. Now, I don't know how smart they are about detecting what's I don't know which parameter them off. I mean, it could have been, I mean, I don't know if it's bad blocks. It could be over temperature. That's the thing that will set RAID off if you're looking for it. The utility I found that does the best prediction is DriveDX.
Oh, from our friends at Binary Fruit. Yeah.
It shows you both the raw, and then it'll give you like a compilation. And sometimes, like I had this happen, I took a really old drive and plugged it in, and it immediately came up and said, whoa, dude, this drive's about to fail. It's a 10-year-old Hitachi 1 gigabyte drive that I still have in my Tropo, and it hasn't failed. It's like 10 years old. Unbelievable.
Fault tolerance is your friend with a drive that old. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have, double redundancy in that thing.
Sure. Yeah. That's great.
So that's what I got on that. Of course, we have, what did Brian say here? I think that Brian said this. Replace the drive. Best not to mess around with it. I'd like to know a little more.
Yeah.
Personally.
I waffle back and forth between those two things. Like, there are times when I see a drive start to fail and it's like, all right, I just go on Amazon, I, buy its replacement and I implement the replacement. And then other times I'll be like, well, let me take it out and let's run some tests. But when drives rarely get better. And in fact, they rarely plateau. Although I have seen it happen, so the term rarely is anecdotal, meaning you'll see it start to get worse, and then it doesn't continue to get worse. That's the rarity. Most of the time, when it starts to take a nosedive, I've found it like
and I had that once with my Synology. At first, it was like, oh, there's one bad block, and then I'm like, okay,
yeah.
Let's wait and see. And then, like I looked a couple days later, it was like, oh, now there's 50 bad blocks. And I'm like, okay, we know where this is going.
Gotta go. Yeah. It grows like a cancer. Often.
Yeah, I mean, if a single block fails, usually the drive will remap it. But
right. That's right.
You won't even know that it happened.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. Right. You won't know it happened, and it probably won't trigger any smart reports unless you've got things like really tight. But but you're right. Yeah, seeing single blocks here and there reported as failed, it's good to be aware of so that you can sort of monitor the patterns. But that's not the worst. But like you said, when you start seeing, when it's every week you're getting reports like, oh yeah, we got another 50 blocks. It's like, cool.
So the question I have is, am I doing enough? My Synology drive sends me an email once a week that says, my Synology disk station sends me an email once a week that says,
sure,
all drives seem to be operating normally.
Yep.
Just leave it at that? Or do I need to go in there and grind those suckers down?
Well, the nice part about any sort of redundant system, in a Synology, you're probably running single drive redundancy. Drobos generally are single drive. You can do double with each of them. The nice part about that is you don't have to, you have a little bit of a safety net there. So like, I tend to trust, for my Synology, I trust the emails that I get from it every week or every month or whatever it is that say, yeah, things are good. No problem. Keep going.
Things are going swimmingly.
Yeah. So
carry on, chap.
Yeah, carry on. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I basically follow that same path. But as soon as it starts to tell me about something, that's when I look, and I'll even look historically, because I manage Synologies for a couple family members or whatever. And if I get one and it's like, oh, this is it, 112 bad blocks. It's like, all right, well, let me look at the last 3 months. Have we been at 112 for 3 months? And if so, like, you know what? Let's let it ride. Let's see what happens. But if it's growing, it's like, okay, it's
so done. It does tell you, hey, I found some bad blocks this week.
Yeah.
Because I've never gotten anything but, hey, you're doing fine. And
yeah,
I mean, knocking wood here.
Right.
It's a lot of years with those same drives. I want to say 2-3 years now. Nary a hiccup.
That's pretty normal. I find as people know, my experience with Iron Wolf drives has been horrible. Like I get like 2 years out of them, but and consistently, I'm not sure why. I know others have had decent luck with them. including you, John, right? Like your Iron Wolf drives have been okay, right?
I think I've had one fail in the number of years that I've had them.
Okay. But other than the Iron Wolves, and even those have lasted 2 to 3 years before they start giving me trouble. But, otherwise, 5 years or even like John said, 10 years, although that's 10 years with a Hitachi drive. I just have so many bad memories of those dying. Yeah, they made crappy drives for a while.
Well, I think it was actually, I pulled it out of one of my old Macs. So it was co-branded. So it was a Hitachi drive, but it had little Apple on it.
Right. Yeah, Hitachi was making Apple's drives for a while. And that was this a rotational drive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they loved that click of death, those Hitachi drives. Yeah. So, but again, you've got some fault tolerance in your Drobo, so I think you're all right. Where are we on time here? We got time for a little bit more. Let's
yeah, you brought up a good point here. Listen for the click of death if they're mechanical drives.
Yes. Yeah, if you hear that happening, like that jumps, and you'll know if you've never heard the click of death before, you'll know the drive makes a clicking sound that you've never heard, and it's loud and snappy and it doesn't sound right. And if the drive still works after you hear the click of death, and sometimes it does, it's the click of impending death. Treat it that way. Your first priority now is to make sure you have all the data off of that thing. And then once you either have that or have that in process, the second priority is to buy its replacement because it's going. Yeah.
And I hesitate to mention it though, but
why?
Because I think it's strictly a Windows/DOS thing, but it's Steve Gibson wrote Spin Rate. Which is an amazing utility for disks with problems and recovery. If your drive craps out on you, you can go get stuff off of it that otherwise it would never boot. You couldn't get to it, that sort of thing. SpinRite's amazing. He's been working for many, many years on the follow-on to it that's supposedly bootable across or usable across all platforms. And I lost the bead on where exactly that was. But if you have access to an old Windows system or Unix, Ubuntu Unix or something like that, this thing boots into its own DOS and gets right down to the very gut level of spinning drives. And it turns out, I do remember him saying this on the newest version, that it inadvertently does wonderful on solid state drives as well.
No kidding.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I wouldn't have even thought to try it on that. No, I mean, I guess if I were back against the wall, I might think to try it on that.
It accidentally works wonders on solid state drives too, which he was pleasantly surprised by.
Yeah, amazing. Cool.
I don't know where that stands. I haven't listened in way too long to
right
to where he is on that.
Right.
SpinRite's cool.
SpinRite is cool. I agree. Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Brian wrote in and asked us. He said, where it is, he says, I'm looking for a recommendation on a Wi-Fi app to help me figure out what's going on around my house with neighbors' Wi-Fi and the like. What can I use on my iPhone to scan for other Wi-Fi networks? And the unfortunate part is that Apple's APIs do not allow third-party developers to tap into the Wi-Fi radio at that level. So they don't get to really see the radios. And as such, there are no third-party apps to do Wi-Fi scanning on the iPhone. There is, however, a first-party app that you can download from the App Store. It is Apple's Airport utility. And then once you have it installed, you go onto your iPhone, you go to Settings, Airport utility, and you turn on Wi-Fi scanner. Then launch Airport utility. And you will see in the upper right-hand corner of Airport Utility, Wi-Fi scan. Hit that. And it will be the worst, most rudimentary Wi-Fi scanner you've ever experienced. You get data in there that is requires you to make charts and graphs and, with circles and arrows on the back of each one so that you can understand what it is it's telling you. But the data is there. It will show you SSID and signal strength and channel. And it's a nightmare to try and actually figure out what important data it's telling you. But that's the way to do it with your iPhone, unfortunately. With a Mac, My favorite app these days is Wi-Fi Explorer. It's part of SetApp. It's from Intuit Bits. I think that's the right URL. Yeah. And we'll put a link in the show notes to it. The way it graphs things out and the way it shows things really helps to make sense of what's going on, where conflicts are, all of that good stuff. So that's those are the two apps. You've got Airport Utility on iOS, and then for me, I like Wi-Fi Scanner on the Mac. There's others though. John, which one are you using these days?
I still like iStumbler.
Okay.
Because it's just been out forever and it does lots of things. The other one that may be good for this though, Dave, is, I've mentioned this before, is NetSpot.
Oh, okay.
So and they actually added a Wi-Fi analyzer. So in the beginning, what this program does is lets you do what's known as a site survey, which is probably what you need. So what you do is you make a map of your house, or, each story, make a map, try to get as close as possible. I've actually, pulled out a ruler and all that. Once you get a map, you then run the site survey mode, and you basically pop into each sector on that floor and then say, okay, sample everything you see here. And once you're done with this activity, you'll get a very nice visual representation of the signal strength at various areas. So that'll probably show you, they have a Wi-Fi scanner too. So you could use that to see who's close to you and blowing you away. Or the site survey. So that's my 2 cents.
Interesting. And, you don't have to break out a ruler, John. You can use the iPhone Measure app.
Right.
Which is pretty magical. It's pretty crazy how it can do what it do.
There are too many people with big brains on this planet.
I'm glad for it. Yeah,
it's awesome.
I think it's great. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, let's see. Do we have time for one more? Yeah, take us to Bob, would you please, John? I think Bob's a good way to wrap things up, even though I think it'll.
Question go?
Where did Bob's question go? It's in Evernote, but I'll read you Bob's question, and you can answer it.
No, the last one, Brian. Let's see it.
I filed it because I file all the questions. It's
but I don't see it in the agenda anymore.
Oh, it's in the agenda. It's above us, but it's fine.
Oh, okay.
I'll read Bob's question. It says, hey, Dave and John, I hate to bother you guys with this as I know how busy you must be, but I really need help finding out how to download YouTube videos. I'm responsible for showing some videos at a large Baha'i conference that we are having next week, but I'd prefer to just have the video on my hard drive instead of having to rely on the Wi-Fi and all of that with my iPhone. He says, I've done quite a bit of searching on Google, but I haven't really found a perfect solution yet. Any help would be appreciated. John?
I would say my favorite one that I found, Dave, is Downy.
Okay.
The good news is if you have SetApp, you can get it from there.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, and I've had it work fine for me. It puts a little icon in the menu bar area, and you just go to a YouTube page, or I guess any page that has a video, and you click on it, and it downloads it to the folder of your choice.
Cool. How about you, Pete? Which one do you use?
Hang on.
Okay.
Good. Okay. I thought I had muted myself when I was off screen.
No, you're all good.
For something else. So I've used Downy and also in SetApp, which I didn't realize Downy was in there, John. Thanks for mentioning that. PullTube is also in there, and they're pretty cool. I don't think it's limited to YouTube. I think it's any video site. Yeah. You take that URL and you put it into that app, and it goes and it grabs the video off of the URL for that page. If there's video there, it's pretty versatile. Although I do find that there's been times when I go there and it goes, I can't get the video. There's a problem. I can't get it, and I've never researched really why.
Sure.
That. I guess your other option is to do a screen capture / record. Obviously, that's the long way around.
Right. Yeah, but that would get you there for sure. Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, in the old days, I would actually search through the source for the page and search for like .mp4.
Oh, yeah.
And copy the link out of the source and then paste it into a new page, and it downloads the video for you.
Yeah, that would work. I mean, in the old days that worked. Nowadays, I don't think it does. They're chunking things and streaming it and not just barfing the entire contents of the file at you. So, that makes sense in the old days. Brian Monroe in the chat room at macgeekgab.com/Discord says, well, if you want to do it legally, you pay for YouTube Premium, which is many people might not know that's, a feature of YouTube Premium. So we'll put that in the show notes too. That's great to know. Yeah. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I still don't have a good justification for it, but I still use YT-DLP, which is the terminal command line equivalent. You just brew install YT-DLP, and then you invoke it that way. I am 99% certain that Downey and PullTube would be leveraging the open source code base that this is based on, because why would you reinvent the wheel, right? And they're just putting a wrapper over it. But I'm always wanting to choose my destinations of things, and I don't know why I use the terminal. I gotta just install Downey or something. It's stupid. I don't know. I get some satisfaction out of like pasting the link in the terminal.
Well, how many people have made lots of money putting wrappers on terminal commands, right?
Oh, for sure.
The beauty of it, right? So
and
good on them.
And I don't yes, good on them, because it's good for us. Apple is a company who has made a lot of money putting wrappers on terminal commands, because every bit of like system preferences on your Mac or the settings app on your iPhone is a wrapper over things that you could do with terminal commands. On the iPhone, you'd need a terminal, which of course is a whole other topic of discussion. But yeah, no, it's ridiculous that I have set up. I have access to those two apps that you mentioned, and yet I still use YT-DLP.
Somewhere I was going through the notes, I noticed John wrote back to one of the questions or quick tips, something about the fact some feature went away, and he goes, well, you can still do it in the terminal, and I don't remember which it was. But so if there's a feature or something that you want, John, I don't know if I've jogged your memory or not, but if there's a feature or something you want, chances are good it's there in the terminal. Like you said, it's so much more versatile.
You pretty much set up the next question.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, okay. So we didn't get there yet.
I don't know that there is a next question, but next time we will have a next question. That's for sure. But it is time to bring the band in from the outside. We are well past time, but it's good news, because we have a next question, and that will be the on the agenda for next week. Yeah, absolutely. It's good stuff.
Now you have to do another show.
So 9:30 will exist. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. Hey, Pete.
Yeah.
You're doing a thing, man.
Speaking of another show.
Yes.
Yeah. So, fair warning, it is explicit, but
it's two pilots talking, right?
Pilots talking. It has to be explicit.
Of course, it was explicit.
Federal law. I'm not sure which, but yeah. So
it's international maritime law.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
that's right.
So another former Harrier driver and we were in a gun squadron together 30-some years ago. Oh boy, do I feel old saying that. Call sign Fig, Chuck Newton, and myself, Repeat. We're doing a show called So There I Was, which is how every great aviation tale starts.
I like it.
So if you go to sothereiwas.us, no hyphens, no nothing, you can hear the inaugural episode, warts and all, blowing into the mic getting knocked over, birds in the background, and we talk call signs, and it quickly goes off the rails. It goes south fast, but we'll try to tighten it up, particularly with the acronyms. I noticed that we use a lot of acronyms in the show, but that's part of why we're doing it, so that people can become familiar with all those acronyms.
Cool.
And we had fun doing it. And the first show was just the two of us. We promised to bring in lots and lots and lots of aviation raconteurs who will tell the hilarious, the tragic, the incredible, and we hope to have some fun with it and share some of the blessings of aviation that we've had with everybody.
Well, I'm a subscriber. I'm in.
Awesome.
I love this. Yeah. Well,
let me say up front, thank you to you, Dave, especially for all the technical support and
my
work
pleasure.
that you've given me up front to get this thing launched and off the ground without having to do a reject. We didn't do a rejected takeoff yet.
That's good. Yeah. Especially, I still, if I had known that it was two Harrier pilots, I might have said I can't be involved in this because that's too crazy for me. But we're gonna let it pass for now, and it's gonna be okay.
Send a note out.
That's right. Yeah. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, folks. Thanks for sending in all your questions. As we mentioned a couple of times during the show, feedback at macgeekgab.com is where you can send in more of your questions and tips. We'll have some cool stuff found next week. In fact, we have a huge list of cool stuff found to get through, so we're excited about that. John, you have anything to share with them before I play the outro music here? Any places to find us or anything? All right. Well, keep having fun. Check out our sponsors that we mentioned in the episode, Coda.io/MGG, LinkedIn.com/MGG, and Kolide, KOLIDE.com/MGG. Stay subscribed if you would. If you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. Tell a friend about the show. That would be amazing. John, are you sure you don't have anything else to share today?
I don't think I do. I think Pete does. Don't you, Pete?
Well, if you insist, I can give you one piece of advice that has served me well throughout my aviation career. Don't get caught.
That's good advice.